Hi everyone, I'm Coach Greg, and today I have a very important topic that I'd like to discuss with you. It's about stress-related obesity. How does it happen? What can it be associated with, and what factors can help you avoid it? That is to actually lose weight when obesity is directly caused by high levels of stress hormones and so on. Let's talk about cortisol. It's also known as stress hormone, catabolic hormone. There's a perception that high cortisol levels in a workout will lead to muscle breakdown, and the actual point of the workout is lost. But it's not that simple. Short-term releases and elevated levels of catabolic and anabolic hormones have no effect on your muscles. They just won't have time. Muscle growth and breakdown is a long process. Both anabolism and catabolism always work in conjunction, and the only question is who wins in the long run. Alternatively, they have parity. Short-term hormone releases from training will have no effect on your muscles. It's a proven fact. There's a very interesting study that found an interesting point. The higher the cortisol levels were during training, the more meat you ended up building. How so? It's pretty easily explained this way. The harder the workouts, the more muscle builds. I want to explain that this doesn't work on the long term. That's the connection. Cortisol doesn't grow muscle, that goes without saying. And long-term elevated or lowered hormone levels may very well affect your muscles. That's why constantly elevated stress levels lead to constantly elevated cortisol levels, and ultimately to increased catabolism, which can't help but affect its opposition to anabolism, which means it can lead to loss of muscle mass. If you're so concerned about your cortisol levels at a workout, take a carbohydrate drink with you to your workout. Even simple sugar dissolved in water is fine, but I wouldn't worry about it. Let's start by identifying the characteristic signs for obesity on the background of stress. This is abdominal obesity, meaning directly most of the mass is located on the abdomen. In this case, the limb becomes more and more thin. This syndrome is also characterized by a moon-shaped face, that is, when the fat starts to be located more on the chin. Because of this, the face is rounded and the natural shape of the face is lost. You may also detect a hump, which will consist of fatty tissue accrued in this area. Most often it occurs already women. But if you have a constantly elevated stress level, you don't get enough sleep, these are the issues you need to address first. Otherwise, the growth of muscle mass cannot be expected. Cortisol also allows us to wake up in the morning. And in a healthy person in the evening, or rather, when it is dark, melatonin increases. A person goes to sleep. Growth hormone is produced there and so on. A person recovers and wakes up with the first rays of the sun due to the fact that cortisol increases. Cortisol is elevated in such a person in the morning. So, people who have some kind of chronic cortisol dysregulation have situations where they can't wake up in the morning because they have low cortisol levels. But at night, it is quite high, so a person does not sleep well and cannot wake up in time for the alarm clock. To solve the problem with sleep, you should, for example, reduce your caffeine intake. Caffeine will tend to raise average daily cortisol levels. You take away the caffeine, the cortisol is lower, you can sleep well. And actually, this strategy will allow you to lower your cortisol levels somewhat and live a better life. Well, and naturally, to part with the extra weight that you have accumulated. So sleep is one of the most important factors for these people. Above, I talked about people who have fat stored on their belly and thin limbs. So with cortisone, it's such a messy situation that it doesn't even get extra calories from outside. It allows the muscle to break down and at the same time process it into energy and store it on the stomach. So a person just starts to lose muscle mass, for example, in the legs. So for these people, getting calories from outside a small amount will not be a guarantee that the person will lose mass. So he can just start digesting his muscles and turning them into body and into fat. That's what's so special about this condition with elevated cortisone. So this is in that a person will eat on a very small calorie intake while still getting the extra weight from somewhere. But it works on condition of poor sleep, as well as really big stress in life. On ordinary people, calorie deficit will work very well. The next point would be to eliminate irritants or reduce stress, that is, any external factors that prevent your body from adapting and feeling normal, including your psyche. Any stressful impact on the body wears it down and leads to premature death, and can also contribute to increased cortisol levels and in consequence, all the unpleasant consequences we are talking about now. So we need to reduce exposure to various irritants. Irritants can be absolutely any factor in your life. For example, this or that person, or work and the like. This could be excessive exercise, among other things. But for you, it can cause the opposite effects. Thanks to this, you will feel even worse. Get even higher levels of cortisol, and accordingly, due to additional irritation of some unpleasant change in your life. You will not lose weight, but on the contrary, you will gain weight. So it is necessary to eliminate all irritating factors. And the best option would be to go away for a month, somewhere to a resort or 2 months, and you will significantly reduce the level of cortisol. In the absence of all these irritants that are present in your life. This video ends here. It was a short story about cortisol and its consequences.